The next topic we're going to address is a change in the supply of loanable funds. Okay, so but we're going to do it slightly differently than we did with the change in demand for loanable funds, because there's not just one thing that shifts the supply of loanable funds curves. There's several things that shift this curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you changes in supply and then address what shifts it. Okay, so sort of backwards from what we did with the demand of loanable funds. So we have our loanable funds market, and this market clears at a particular interest rate. In other words, the supply of loanable funds, quantity supplied of loanable funds equals quantity demanded of loanable funds. We have equilibrium quantity of loanable funds in this market. Okay, so many funds being saved and borrowed in this market. An increase in the supply of loanable funds means a rightward shift of the supply of loanable funds curve. Now, if this occurs, okay, what happens is then that the quantity demanded of loanable funds at the original interest rate is right here. But for some reason, people are willing to save a lot more money at that interest rate. Once again, banks then have a surplus of loanable funds. In order to get rid of that excess cash, they need to make borrowing more attractive, so they lower the interest rate. Okay, and of course there's more money out there being saved and borrowed even at that lower interest rate. Okay, now a decrease in the supply of loanable funds I probably should have moved this up more, but whatever, I'll fit it in. So a decrease in the supply of loanable funds, just redrawing our loanable funds market here, looks like a leftward shift in the supply of loanable funds curve. Now, if the supply of loanable funds falls, the quantity supplied of loanable funds is here at the original interest rate, but the quantity demanded is here. In other words, we have excess demand. We have a shortage of loanable funds at the original interest rate. And just like we had in the last video, when there's a shortage of loanable funds, banks exploit this, financial institutions exploit this, and they increase the interest rate. Okay, and this reduces the amount of loanable funds in the market. Okay, so that's a supply curve shift in a nutshell. Now the question is, what causes these? Well, an increase in the supply of loanable funds is caused by an increase in your disposable income. Okay. In other words, your paycheck's larger. Okay, your take-home pay is larger, should I say? Your after-tax pay, your disposable income is the top line on your paycheck minus taxes, which equals the bottom line on your paycheck. That's your take-home pay. If your take-home pay goes up, holding consumption constant, you're likely to save more. Okay, you're likely to save more. If your paycheck goes up significantly enough, then you don't even need to hold consumption constant. Even with an increase in consumption, you're still likely to save more money. That's going to increase the supply of loanable funds. The next thing that can increase the supply of loanable funds is a decrease in wealth. Now, why would people save more at any interest rate if their wealth falls? Well, wealth in itself is a form of saving, right? I mean, your house, Any your 401ks, anything that holds value over time, that's your wealth. If your 401k gets depleted, well, then your wealth falls. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to cut back on consumption and save more money out of your paycheck, right? For some reason the value of your house falls. Well, you're less wealthy. Well, that means you're probably going to cut back on consumption, which means by definition, holding your paycheck constant, you're likely to save more. That will increase the supply of loanable funds. And the next thing that increases the supply of loanable funds is a decrease in expected future income. Okay, if you expect your future income to fall, you're going to save more today. That's the bottom line. I mean, if you think you're going to get laid off a month from now, well, you're probably going to bank every dollar that you get. You're probably going to try and save every dollar that you get. So if you expect your future income to fall, you're going to save more. That's going to increase the supply of loanable funds. And a decrease in the supply of loanable funds is exactly the opposite. A fall in disposable income. Okay, poor people tend to spend a greater proportion of their paycheck than rich people do. They tend to save less. Okay, an increase in wealth. Okay, so your 401k increases by 30%. You feel wealthier. You're probably going to take more vacations and you're going to consume more, which means you're going to save less. Your property value of your house goes up. You'll probably feel wealthier and you're going to consume more, which means you save less. And an increase in expected future income. Okay, if you expect your future income to go up, okay, then you're probably going to pull some of your future consumption forward. So you may go ahead and buy that new car you were planning to buy 6 months from now. You might just go ahead and buy it today. Well, if you do that, you're going to need down payment money, sales tax money, insurance money, things like that, which means you're going to be drawing off your saving, what you would normally save, and you're going to save less. That'll decrease the supply of loanable funds curve. And that's the supply curve shifts in a nutshell for the private sector. Next, we'll go into how the government affects the loanable funds market.